In the last video we looked at a few bands in the last few years and the way that they had done what's called backmasking. That's hiding sounds or music inside their songs which have been reversed, turned backwards, and we looked at how that could be done in a program called Audacity. Now we've mostly been looking at relatively recent music. We also looked at music with Morse code in it in one of the earlier videos, but in fact this has been going on for a very long time. This rather lovely looking chap that you can see here was around more than a few years ago. His name is J.S. Bach and he wrote all sorts of music, and if we actually go and listen to one of Bach's last compositions, you'll be surprised to find that there's a message inside the music. Here's how it goes. Of a strange ending there, isn't it? Well, I'm not going to go through the whole drama of this now as we did in the lesson, but the interesting thing about this particular piece of music is that it's a fugue, and in a fugue we have a main theme which gets repeated many times, quite often at different pitches, different starting notes. But the very first time that we hear it, it goes like this: B flat, A, C, B natural. And the reason, or few reasons, that this piece sounds strange, apart from its slightly strange ending there where it just sort of stops rather abruptly, is to do with those four pitches. Firstly, if we go from B flat to A, that's a semitone, and it's what we consider a dissonant interval. Then if we go from C to B natural, that's also a dissonant interval. Listen, it's a semitone again. And in fact, the B that we've ended on and the B flat that we started with are also a semitone. So you end up with four notes right next to each other on the piano, chromatically, that are very dissonant. And the whole piece starts off with themes that go. And so you get those lots of different versions of that very chromatic, evil if you like, ending. Now it becomes even more spooky when you consider why the piece just ends abruptly like that. And the reason that the piece ends abruptly like that is because, I mentioned right at the start, it was one of the last pieces that Bach wrote when he was living. So the reason it's not finished is because he died. And what was that message that he was writing? B flat, A, C, B natural. Well, if you write those letters out, B flat, A, C, B natural, you'd say babkb, bakb. What does that mean? Well, in German, B flat is actually written just B, and B natural is written H. So B, A, C, H. In fact, Bach was writing his own name at the time that he died. And that's inspired lots of composers who've used BACH because Bach was one of the most famous composers ever, including Liszt, who wrote this amazing organ prelude, and listen to the notes that repeat over and over. Pretty stirring stuff. But of course it wasn't just Bach who liked to write their name in pieces, and in fact it wasn't just composers' own names that they wrote as messages by using note names, note letters, to spell out other people's names and messages. Here's an example from a Brahms sextet, and you'll be able to pick out the bit that gets repeated over and over again, and then we'll see if we can work out what it means. Alright, so what's going on there? Well, you might have noticed the repeated theme that we heard again and again was this one that you can see there at letter D. That's not it at all. So you might be wondering, what's the message that's going on there? Well, there's a lovely story here. The repeated theme that you can hear again and again is this one. La, 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 la. What does that actually mean? Well, the story is that Brahms himself had gone away on a holiday, and when he was away on that holiday, he met a young lady who he instantly fell madly in love with and knew that he needed to spend the rest of his life with her. In fact, so in love with her was he that he was thinking about actually speaking to her one of the coming days. But sadly, she left her holiday, so the story goes, and he never actually got to tell her how he felt. All he knew was her name. He didn't know where she'd gone, and he never got to see her again. And in works after that, not just this one, but several, Bach wrote her name A-G-A-B-E. And of course, we've already learned that in music, in German music, that note there, that B, means H. You can see it repeating again just there. And so A-G-A-H-E, and he didn't put the T in because there wasn't a musical note for T, so her name was Agatha, and she was his lost love. Well, that is the end of looking at some of the history of messages in music, and it's a very rich history that we've really only skirted over, but over several hundred years. So your job now is to go and write your own piece of music and to hide several messages in it. It could be your own name, it could be somebody else's name, it could be something that you feel strongly about, or it could be some piece of ridiculousness that you'd like to hide in a piece of music, and to hide that and submit your piece of music to me here on the Blend Space, where I can actually look at it and give you some ideas for making it even better. There's going to be a series of extra videos now showing you how to do some of the other tricks that you might need to do, firstly for working out the music from using a code, and secondly some of the things that you can do in GarageBand to make this process nice and easy.